Hey, you're on a Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. I want to talk to you about the tale of two cities. It's Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser has issued a ban on gatherings of over 100 people for purposes of worship. The order is very specific: religious worship. The mayor's orders prohibit gathering of over 100 people for purposes of worship, even if that worship is being held outdoors, and even if the worshipers wear masks and practice appropriate social distancing. Under the district's four-stage plan, in-person worship gatherings will be prohibited until scientists develop either a widely available vaccine or an effective therapy for COVID-19. The lawsuit has been filed by Capitol Hill Baptist Church, Mark Devers Sr., pastor. It accuses the city of being discriminatory in its application of the mass gathering ban because it has allowed protests. According to the Washington Post, the suit filed in federal court requests an injunction against the city. Significantly, the suit says the church should be able to meet in D.C. if conducted with appropriate social distancing practices. Under current D.C. rules, the church won't be able to meet in the city until a vaccine is developed, according to the suit. The mayor and the city have specifically and explicitly targeted in-person religious gatherings, the suit says. And because of that, the restrictions are, quote, not neutral on their face. Capitol Hill has been meeting at locations outside the city, Capitol Hill Church. The mayor's orders prohibit gatherings of over 100 people for purposes of worship, even if held outdoors, even if worshipers wear masks, practice appropriate social distancing. In all of this, you find people grasping at straws to shut down the worship of God. They're not out there doing anything to the pagans. All the groups and things that are out there worshiping whatever else there may be to worship. It becomes a very obvious ploy when it is handled in this way. The city suit, or the suit against the city, says that the city has become discriminatory because it is picking and choosing what groups that it will attack or limit. For example, on June 6, Mayor Bowser appeared personally at an outdoor gathering of tens of thousands of people on the corner of 16th and H Streets Northwest and delivered a speech describing the large gathering as wonderful to see. Similarly, on 4 occasions between June and August, the district's Metropolitan Police Department closed city streets to accommodate protests and marches of tens of thousands of people. And only 3 weeks ago, the mayor coordinated with organizers of the Commitment March on Washington to, quote, reimagine the 5-hour event on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial for several thousand people in attendance to hear an array of speakers. Capitol Hill Baptist says they take no issue with the defendant's decision to permit these gatherings, which are themselves protected by the First Amendment. The church does, however, take exception to the defendant's decision to favor certain expressive gatherings over others. First Amendment protects both mass protests and religious worship. But Mayor Bowser, by her own admission, has preferred the former over the latter. On the other side, an estimated 10 to 30,000 people assembled in Washington, D.C. last weekend. They did it with almost no media coverage. Did you see it? Not one media outlet acknowledged what was going on. Major secular outlet. So, what was going on? Something called the Return. It was billed as, quote, a prayer march. And last Saturday, the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association sponsored that prayer march in our nation's capital. Did you go? Did you see it in the news? Did you know it was going to happen? I answer all of these questions with the same word, no. And I pay attention. Here was a dedicated prayer march focused solely on asking God to heal our land. Not a protest, not a political event. Simply people gathering around the Lincoln Monument and the reflecting pond, asking God to heal our nation. Just Christians, and no doubt others, coming together to ask God in our desperately sick situation for mercy. Created as a national day of prayer and repentance, I'm glad to see the word repentance added because it is almost never included. Even President Trump issued a national proclamation to support and to endorse it. Franklin Graham said, our president has issued the proclamation naming the National Day of Prayer and Return 2020. Thank you, Mr. President, for standing with us in prayer for the future of this great nation, seeking God's healing for a nation of crisis. On Fox and Friend weekend, ahead of the march, Graham said, I think our country's in trouble. And Democrats will tell you that. Republicans will tell you that. We're coming today to call upon the name of God because I believe only God can fix the problems that we face in this nation today. Vice President Pence spoke at this gathering. The president issued a proclamation. The media ignored it. Graham, speaking with co-host Pete Hegseth, said, my prayer is for healing, that Jesus Christ, God's Son, as a nation, we would turn our eyes back to him. You know, 150 years ago, your pastors, the churches, were the political leaders in every community. Recalling nationwide protests during the Vietnam War, Graham believes the nation is even more divided today. He said we need a spiritual healing in this country, and only God can do that. He laments that the church and its leaders have been marginalized today. He believes the socialists in this country would like to shut the churches down, but I'm going to pray, he said, that we will turn our eyes to God. We're coming today from all states to pray, to humble ourselves, to confess the sins of our nation to God, to ask for his forgiveness, to call upon him to help our nation, and we're going to pray for our representatives, Republican, Democrat, whatever. We're going to pray for them all. And we didn't hear anything about it. That's where we are.